Welcome to our session on mortgages. Think about what happens when a person can't repay a loan secured on their home. That's why mortgages are central to property law. They protect lenders but also must safeguard borrowers. Today we will walk step by step through the key principles from what a mortgage is to role of equity to the remedies available. Along the way, I'll show you how the courts shaped the rules through real cases. By the end, you will see how these rules come up in practice and in exam. Here is why this matters in practice. A mortgage is a way of using property as security for a loan. The borrower, called the mortgagor, offers land or goods, and the lender, called the mortgagee, gains a property right. This matters because it's not just a personal debt, it's a legal interest in property. Think about why equity stepped in here. At common law, default meant the land was lost for good. Equity stepped in with the equity of redemption, ensuring the borrower could still reclaim property by repaying the loan. In Campbell versus Hoyland, 1878, the court confirmed mortgages are security only, not a way for lender to gain unfair ownership. This case is a turning point. Equity prevents lenders from clogging the mortgagor's right to redeem. In Samuel vs. Jara Timber, 1904, the court struck down clauses that unfairly stopped redemption. Some judges, like in Sun and North Investments in 2013, suggested unconscionability is also needed. But the principle is clear. Redemption must remain open. Normally, to create a valid mortgage, two things are required. A mortgage contract, which is agreement to secure a loan with the land, and mortgage deed, a formal document that creates the actual security interest. But in Torrens system, which is our land registration system, you don't need a deed. Registration of the mortgage itself is treated as if a deed had been executed. So, registration gives the mortgagee their statutory charge automatically. Now here is the twist. What if the parties forget the deed or don't follow the proper formalities? Equity can still step in and recognize an equitable mortgage. However, provided there is enough evidence of intention to create security. In case Theodore versus Misford, 2005, in this case, the paperwork wasn't perfect. The formal requirements weren't fully met, but the court said that doesn't mean there is no mortgage at all. Equity recognized the arrangement as an equitable mortgage, but it was clear that the parties intended to create security over the land. At strict law, you would normally need contract, deed, or registration under Torrens, but equity looks at the substance. Equity is like does the justice. If the intention was to create a mortgage, it won't let a lender walk away empty-handed just because of a technical defect. Here is the practical significance. There are three kinds. 1. Old title mortgages transfer legal title until repayment. Torrens mortgages under Section 74 are statutory charges, no transfer of ownership. Equitable mortgages arise when equity steps in, often through deposit of title deeds or part performance. You see how a simple act created legal consequences. If a person deposits their title deeds with the lender, equity assumes an intention to create security. In Ellis versus Marshall 2006, the court confirmed this as an enforceable equity mortgage. This highlights the balance of rights and duties. The mortgagor must repay principal and interest, insure the property and keep it in repair. The mortgagee may sue for repayment, take possession or assign the mortgage. Under Torrance, possession must remain with the mortgagor unless default occurs. Here is what happens in default. When default occurs, the mortgagee can sell the property. Notice must be given, as in Websdale versus SNJD Investments. The mortgagee must act in good faith and sell at market value. Surplus goes back to the borrower, but if sale money falls short, the borrower still owes the balance. Did you notice how the law protects third parties? If the sale is mishandled, the borrower can challenge it. However, legislation protects third-party buyers, so the sale itself stands. In Fawcett versus Blundell, courts confirmed a borrower may lodge a caveat to stop registration. This remedy shows the lender's ultimate power. Foreclosure allows the mortgagee to take full ownership, discharging the loan, as seen in Heath versus Pugh 1861. Alternatively, the mortgagee may appoint a receiver, especially where the borrower is a company. To conclude, remember this key takeaway. Mortgages balance lender security with borrower protection. Equity of redemption, statutory safeguards, and case law all work together to ensure fairness, to ensure justice. Keep this in mind for problem questions and exams, because mortgage issue often test your ability to apply both legal and equitable principles. To wrap up, remember that mortgages are not just about debt. They are about the intersection of law and equity. Common law gave lenders strict rights, but equity stepped in with the equity of redemption and rules against clogging. Statutes then balanced both sides with protections like notice requirements and duties of good faith. For your problem questions, I will advise always ask who has the stronger right here, the mortgagor or the mortgagee, and why. If you keep this framework in your mind, and you will be ready to tackle mortgage questions with real confidence. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson.